talking to Jamie Hall here on the Sports Buffet about some Liberty football. Jamie has been around Liberty for, it's been a long time now, and you're still a young man. So I don't know how to introduce you in terms of the Liberty stuff. You do play-by-play for women's basketball, and like I said, I'll just call you Liberty historian. How about
that? Well, that goes as far as my memory, and sometimes my memory fails me these days. But yeah, I've been around longer than I probably want to try to figure out the years, to be honest, Bob.
Hey, I'm with you on that memory stuff. I just where'd I put that $5 bill type thing? That's where I'm kind of at some days. How big of a win was that in terms of what Dr. Jerry Falwell Sr.'s vision was for the program in terms of beating BYU?
Well, I think some people that maybe are on the outside of the program would think that it's being overstated, but it really isn't. Now, do I think playing Notre Dame would be even higher on the list and beating Notre Dame would be even higher on the list? Yeah, probably so. But I think BYU, it's almost like that was the perfect stepping stone in all this, as far as to think, 25 years ago even still, to get to the FBS level, be playing in bowl games, to have a stadium that has 25,000 seats, or well, actually not seats, but 25,000 capacity. I think that was still shocking for some of us that have been around for a while, for it to happen this quickly. Did we think it would happen? Yeah, sure. I mean, but it took a lot of programs. It took 100 years to get to that level of playing football, and that it happened so fast is, I think, it's the impressive part for me, that his vision has kind of come to fruition not that far removed from his lifetime. I think a lot of people thought it might take 25, 35, 50 years to get his entire vision fulfilled, and they got a big chunk of it by beating BYU at Williams Stadium, and the fact that 3 years prior they played BYU. Like I said, it seems like it's just these perfect stepping stones, but just faster than you would have ever imagined if you were on the Liberty campus. I mean, some of the guys that predate me can talk about there was no football stadium on the campus. They were playing the games at City Stadium. If you go back to the guys that were playing back in the 70s, they didn't even have a place to practice on the mountain. They were practicing at Treasure Island and playing wherever they could find a field to play a football game. And to fast forward, and then you got to transition to what was 1AA back in the late 80s, and to then the Turner Gill, and you don't want to pass Danny Rocco and everything he accomplished for the university, but then you go to the Turner Gill era and you win some games, you win in the playoffs, and then you just, who could have imagined what's been able to be accomplished since Coach Freeze has been here, as far as winning 3 straight bowl games. But yeah, to play BYU 3 years ago, and then to get them to even get them to come to Lynchburg, what an accomplishment, to get them to just come to Williams Stadium, and then to be able to beat them and beat them handily in front of just an amazing crowd is outstanding. And I think the thing that people kind of forget is we play the clips of Dr. Falwell saying, one day I want us to be able to provide to Christian students what Notre Dame provides to Catholic students and what BYU provides to Mormon students, and that's true. But when you talk to him in those off-the-cuff moments, and sometimes maybe even in the convocation service, then the follow-up to that was, and we're going to whip them. That was always, we're just going to be there, we're going to whip them. And that really did kind of go full. So not only is it providing it, but he fulfilled the second part of that and saying, we're going to whip them.
Right. We don't want to play just to play. We want to play and win.
Right. So, absolutely.
I interviewed Aaron Stam on my podcast about 2 weeks ago, or maybe actually last week. And I asked him, if they beat BYU, would it be the biggest win in the history of Liberty University? And that's saying a lot, because you talked about they had playoff wins. I think Coastal came in when they were nationally ranked in the top 10. With that being said, Was this the biggest win in Liberty University history?
I think you could probably say 1A and 1B with the Virginia Tech game from 2020, beating the Hokies. I think the average fan is probably going to say Virginia Tech, just because that was before their program completely went downhill, and they're trying to dig out of it. I mean, they were still in contention for a bowl game that season, and so that was a good program. And so you'd say, okay, these are on a parallel. You know, we'll see. By the end of this season, this BYU team, if they went out or if they, you know, go on a run, you might go, okay, no. And this is clearly and just strictly based off of how good the football team is you're playing, could be a bigger win. But I think as far as getting that recognition in state, beating Virginia Tech was huge as well. I mean, that's been the football program in the Commonwealth for the last 30 years, you know, and going back to the mid 90s, and so you that was huge. I think when you bring the vision into it, and the fact that BYU was named specifically in that vision, I think that puts it on that parallel. And then it just comes down to kind of personal opinion on it. If you were around in the Dr. Falwell days, you're going to say BYU without a doubt, because he claimed it and Liberty got it. And if you're just a casual fan that lives in the Lynchburg area, you're going to go, well, BYU, you know, they're a 500-ish team this season. Maybe they're not as good as they had been the last couple of years, which I think is a little bit false. They've played a very tough schedule.
Right.
But I think if you're a casual fan, you might go, no, I think it meant more to the program to beat Virginia Tech. But that's a fun thing to be able to argue about. You beat the number one team in the state from the last 30 years, and you beat a team that's won a national championship in the past and was your founder's vision of your football program. You beat both of those teams in the last 2 seasons, or last 3 seasons total. I think the fact that you've got that conversation going means that things are moving in the right direction for Liberty football, beyond anybody's imagination.
Yeah, and the 3 losses for BYU, if I'm not mistaken, are like Oregon, Notre Dame, and Arkansas. So, I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, they lost to West Central State of Louisiana third time removed or anything like that. I mean, they're losing to quality teams. One more question about Liberty, and I debate this one in my head a little bit, so I'll let you debate it with me out loud. After the game, they stormed the field. I get it, but I also say we're above field storming right now just because of where we're at and what type of program we are. But on the same token, we beat BYU. What side of the coin are you on? Good field storming, or why did we do that?
I don't have a problem with it. I think this was, you know, you go back to the vision thing, and I know that's probably driving non-Liberty people crazy to hear that phrase just keep being brought up over and over again, but I think that does add some significance to it. If the game against Virginia Tech, of course, it was during the pandemic, so there wouldn't have been a lot of fans to storm the field, but if that game was at Williams Stadium, I don't think anybody would question it, even though, you know, Virginia Tech wasn't undefeated at the time. You know, I forget exactly what their record was when that game was played, but I think people would say, okay, you beat the big bad wolf in the state of Virginia. You can storm the field. That's fine. You're a FBS program in your first year of bowl eligibility. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. Right. If BYU would have come into this game and they were ranked in the top 25, I don't think anybody would have really had a problem with it. I think it's just, you know, they've lost a couple games. They slipped out of the top 25. And then you know, if you think you're better than BYU, and if you think you should be in the top 25, and BYU obviously would not be in the top 25 with 4 losses now, or not, you know, they wouldn't even be in the receiving votes. You think of it like that. And I think if you're a part of a blue blood program, or even a Power 5 program, yeah, I think you can have those conversations. But when you're talking about a program that's just in its 4th year of FBS eligibility, and it's certainly the biggest, you know, there's no doubt it's the biggest win at home for Liberty in the history of the program. Again, you can argue over whether the Virginia Tech win was as big or bigger, or in the neighborhood of being as big or whatever. But as far as a home win, this is the biggest one. So if you were ever going to storm the field, this is the time to do it. And I think, even though the majority of the kids that were out there on that field were not, I guess they were alive when Dr. Falwell was alive, but they certainly weren't old enough to comprehend any of this as far as the vision and so on. But I think they get it. I think the week leading up to the game, the things that Coach Freeze said, the things that were said on campus, I think they get it. They get that this was bigger than just one football game. And so you put all those together, and I think it's fine. They were having fun. Nobody did anything destructive. Right. They weren't tearing goalposts down and chucking them in the James River. I think it was all in good fun.
That would have been cool. But, I don't think most people probably – you talked about the kids that were storming the field. And just to – clear this up, I'm not a fuddy-duddy to where I'm against field storming, but I can see both sides of the coin in terms of that thing. So I just want to throw that out there. I think field storming and court storming gets a little carried away sometimes, but in this case, I'm okay with it. But at that same time, it would have been cool to throw in the James River, by the way. But I think those kids that you talked about, that when Dr. Falwell had their vision, if they were born, they certainly didn't know where Liberty University or Lynchburg, Virginia was, probably.
No, that's true. And you get some second and now even third and fourth generation students, maybe just barely fourth generation, but you're starting to get that. So there's a little bit of history now, and the alumni base is getting big enough that there's a little bit of that, of kind of like the Cavs and the Hokies fans that they just grow up into it. They grow up and they're wearing orange or burnt orange when they're a year old, and by the time they realize what they're wearing, they're already they've been bred Hokie fans or they've been bred Cavalier fans, and you're starting to see that. You're starting to see the Liberty alumni bringing their kids to the games, or even coming back to Lynchburg, and they live in Massachusetts or they live in Florida, but they're bringing their kids back. And then now I've got a friend that I went to college with that his kids are at Liberty, and so it's coming full circle, and you're starting to build that fan base to where hopefully there's more and more that when they are 5 years old and they still don't even really have the concept of what a college is, but they know that Liberty exists because Dad's taking them to a game, or with ESPN Plus and the fact that you can watch every game online or on your television. I've been watching games since I can remember, and for you or I, that would have probably been whatever the CBS game of the week was, or the ESPN nightly game. We would have just been. I think we were fortunate enough probably to be kids, and I think you're younger than me, but as far as to be kids, when we had cable and we could actually watch a few games a week. But you go back maybe just one generation before us, and if you weren't on the NBC, ABC, CBS game of the week, you didn't see the game. And now you can be a fan of that three-directional school in Missouri you were talking about earlier, and their games are probably on ESPN Plus too right now. So you can watch just about every team in the country at every level, and be a fan from afar. So I think it's changing, but you're right. And in 2005, 6, right before Dr. Falwell passed away, kids that were just growing up in that age, not so much. But now it is changing as far as I think you can build a fan base. And then the online school too. I tell you, I've talked to so many people that have never set foot in Lynchburg, and they talk about, I want to get to a game. I've gone to the online school. I feel like I'm a part of the university. I'm a fan of the athletic program because I'm an alumni. But I did all this while I was in California or Oregon or Louisiana, and I want to get to Lynchburg to be able to kind of pull all that together and say, I've been on the campus. This is where I got my education, but also I want to go to a football game because Hugh Freeze has got me jacked up about watching some football. Richie McKay, Gary Green, they've got me jacked up about watching some basketball, and so on. Field hockey makes it to the national championship game. Whatever the case may be, they're excited about the sports, and they've never even been to Lynchburg.
Yeah, and then when you get in and you look at the baseball stadium or the softball stadium, I mean, the facilities are just immaculate all across the board.
Oh, top notch, yeah. I mean, how many programs in the country, and I'm going to even say a good chunk of Power 5 programs would like to have the football indoor practice facility. Some of those teams up north have a bubble, and that's fine. They can practice in it. It keeps them warm in the cold months, but they don't have this palace that Liberty football has as far as being able to use it, and then also have it for game day events and fan fests and the walk through that the team does, the team walk and so on. And yeah, I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just one small thing. Yeah, you've got a baseball field that, boy, how much would the Hillcats love to have a baseball stadium like Liberty baseball stadium?
Any team. I mean, outside of Major League Baseball, I mean, I think it rivals any park that you would see in the minor leagues. And by the way, you may be a little bit older, but we were all going to the same school dances. You're not that much older.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah, we're in the neighborhood.